not not being able to be free to worship God the way they want to. Just brought them out of a tremendous amount of stuff. And I always go back to, and I had this later on in my notes, but how many times in the Old Testament, I love preaching out of the Old Testament, but
Yep.
does God say, I am the God who brought you up from Egypt? Like, he brings that back to them all the time. And I thought, if God's going to say it more than once, if he says it once, it's important. If he says it more
Yeah.
than once, it's super important. And it's because they've probably forgotten.
100%. And I
Yeah.
just think about like we can so easily, how many sermons do you hear or just talking with people? They're like, I cannot believe how much they grumbled and complained about all these
Yeah.
things and like they should have been grateful. Like, let me tell you, my AC in my car was broke the other week and it was like 80 degrees and I've got a 5-year old, a 3-year old, and a now a 6-month old.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is really uncomfortable. I mean, we put all the windows down, but I was like, something as simple as that. Like, that we can, yet they were, if we were walking through the desert, if we were in these uncomfortable states, like we would have been doing the same.
Yeah.
So rather, and think about like, I'm sure they were, I mean, I was pregnant not long ago. I'm sure they were pregnant at the time too. They were, they went through sicknesses, they had little ones, they had all these things. They had, elderly people walking with them as well. So like before we point our finger at like
Yeah.
I cannot believe they're handling this in that way, or even nowadays you can say like I cannot believe this person's handling this in that way. Like stop and humble yourself and say like okay, let me reflect on how I've handled situations and like just pray for and encourage people who are going through hard times rather than looking at how they're handling it and how you think you would handle it because we never know how we're
Yep.
going to handle things until we get into the situations. And I think it's really important, like in and amongst that, like when we're like, man, I couldn't predict how I'd handle something. However, you can't predict how the Holy Spirit's going to meet you in
Right.
that place if you are a
Absolutely.
believer in Him and how He's going to give you that peace that surpasses all understanding, how He's going to strengthen you. And no, you're not going to feel peaceful the entire time. That's just not reality.
Yep.
This side of heaven, we are going to have these struggles and hardships that we go through. But really reflecting on this book of Exodus, it's amazing how He called them out and how He gave them a new identity. They are no longer slaves, they were His children. And then He also, in amongst these 40 years, He helped them to know who He was as a loving
Absolutely.
and providing God, and who guided and directed their steps so clearly for them. And before they, a lot of them probably only knew Him and saw Him for the plagues that
Yep.
was that happened because Pharaoh would not let them go, and God was like, I'm going to reveal myself. Like there's going to be ramifications for Pharaoh's hardened heart and disobedience and all. So